very excited to be doing this 1-hour nutrition lectures with Gilda's club. We're hoping there could be hopefully a couple of times a month coming up, and there will be different nutrition topics every time. So please let me know in the chat box if there's any specific topic you would like to discuss moving forward. I'm open for suggestions. I'm hoping this time together can be an interactive time where you can ask me nutrition-related questions as you wish. I will talk for a bit, go through my little PowerPoint I prepared, and then you are welcome to ask me questions, put them in the chat box, and we will try to get to as many of them as time is permitted. So let me see my little PowerPoint here. There we go. One of my favorite things to do as a dietitian is survivorship nutrition counseling after patients are finished with their active phase of their treatment. Today we'll talk a little bit more about preventing recurrence of cancer. We can definitely speak more about side effects during active treatment phase at a different time, or if you have any specific questions, because that's a whole other session right alone for sure. So this is time we focus on reducing the risk for cancer recurrence in the future with nutrition interventions. Some interesting and eye-opening facts on this coming slide here. Talks a lot about breast cancer, but also in overall about cancer. It's, as you all know, a horrible disease, and it is becoming even more common. And we're not seeing any, just to see in 2024, for the first time ever, the US expected to surpass more than 2 million new cancer diagnoses in 1 year. That is incredible. Incredible numbers right there. So I often get the questions, what the heck am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to eat? If you go on social media, you see a lot of trendy little diets and recommendations that do not really have any type of research behind it to reduce the risk for cancer. Lots of fear mongering out there when it comes to cancer and nutrition. So I'm a huge research nerd. And I base my recommendations on research. And one of my jobs is to decipher the research, the current recommendations, and come up with and translate them to easy to understand recommendations and information that you can incorporate into your life and help reduce risk for your cancer recurrence and also other chronic illnesses in the past, in the future. So what do we actually know as far as nutrition? Well, we know from studies that what we eat, how much physical activity we do, and how much alcohol we consume, those are modifiable factors that each of us have control over. There are a lot of things we don't have control over when it comes to cancer, as you all know. We don't have control over if we have a genetic predisposition to cancer. We don't have control of the very toxic environment we all live in. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the chemicals in our environment. But let's focus on what we can control. We can control what we eat. What should we eat? We live in a world full of ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods, not even processed foods anymore. They're ultra-processed. They're often toxic. That is really terrible for our health. The standard American diet, we also sometimes call it the SAD diet. Unfortunately, it's full of processed junk that are often so overly processed that it's really not even clear if we can even call it food anymore. Is it more a food substance? The ingredients list is often mile long. We can't even pronounce most of the chemicals and the additives that's in them. So my first recommendation I have for you tonight is eat real whole foods. You're sure you have heard to not eat foods that your grandparents couldn't pronounce. You probably heard that in the past. And that's really still is true even today. Cook at home as much as possible. Fresh ingredients. Cook with a loved one or share a meal with a friend. Limit prepackaged foods we buy. Try to buy fresh foods without barcodes. Vegetables, fruit, beans, nuts, seeds, whole grain starches, fish, chicken, some red meat if you choose, and dairy foods. That should be the majority of what you eat, most of the time at least. I always ask my patient to make changes at degree to where they currently are in their eating habits. Meaning, if I have a patient that tell me that they eat lots of to-go foods or fast foods and a lot of ultra processed foods, that's not someone that would necessarily go into micronutrients and hyper focused diet pattern. Even small attainable changes that person would actually make a huge difference in their life. Small steps, small changes. So you really need to be able to walk before you can run. That's what I usually say to them. Another patient that might be very health conscious, have been eating a well-balanced diet for most of their life. That's the time we can get into the really, fine-tune their nutrition and get into the current research about glucose control, which is huge right now, the microbiome that you may have heard about, and other really amazing areas of nutrition. It's exploding right now with research regarding nutrition and cancer. So what I'm saying is you need to think about where you are right now in your health journey and take the recommendations that we will talk about tonight and tailor them into where it will fit for yourself. So as you see on this study there, so study after study is showing us that eating a lot of plants, a plant-focused diet, have lots of benefits. What does that mean? Does that mean you have to become a vegetarian or a vegan? You can never eat meat? No, not at all. It just means that you include a lot of plant-based eating. So that would be vegetables, fruits, whole grain, beans, nuts, seeds. They have lots of fiber. They're great for GI health. They feed our microbiome. They provide phytonutrients that we will get into a little bit later what that is. So as you can see on this slide, 2/3 or more of your plate, cover that with vibrant colored fruit and vegetables and whole grain sources. And 1/3 or less even animal protein or plant-based protein if you choose to. I do have a lot of vegetarians that my patients, and you can absolutely get your protein needs from plant sources if you choose to. So that's the next one. So you look at these recommendations here, right? And you think, oh my God, that's a lot of fruits and vegetables. But minimum of 3 cups vegetables a day, 2 cups of fruit, and some beans and seeds. But if you think about it, if you were to include some produce with every meal, for example, some veggies in your morning omelette, maybe a fruit cup with your lunch or whole fruit as a afternoon snack and a side salad in the evening, you've met those needs, actually. It sounds more difficult than it actually is when it comes down to it. And how much is a cup, really? I mean, it sounds a lot, 3 cups. Oh, that's a lot. But if you were to measure out, for example, take baby carrots for say, and see how many baby carrots you can put in a measuring cup, a cup. You'll be surprised. It's actually not as many as you would think. So also mix things up when you go shopping. If you go shopping once a week or whenever you do your grocery shopping, buy a new vegetable that maybe you never tried before. And the variety is where all those phytonutrient benefits and the protection, that's where it lies. Get a lot of variety. Don't just always buy green beans and carrots. Mix things up. And also buy what's in season. That's usually the freshest and also the most affordable. For example, we have strawberry season right now still in Florida. You can get a pint of strawberries for a couple of bucks, and they're delicious right now. So take advantage of the produce that's grown right here in our state. So protein, include good sources of protein in your diet. Fish, chicken, beans are good options, but as much as you should limit red and processed meats. So what is processed meats? Processed meats are cured, salted meats, smoked meats, bacon, sausages, hot dogs, salami, lunch meats, all of those things. It's mainly nitrates that we use, or that is used when they process these meats. That has been shown to create cancerous compounds in our stomach, and that does lead to cancer. That has been proven in larger amounts. There is a correlation, especially with colorectal cancer. You really, if you have a predisposition to colorectal, or if you have history of colorectal, try to avoid processed meats. You know, I'm not saying you never can have bacon, but at least not on a daily basis. So, and red meat, what is red meat? People think it's beef. It's not just beef, actually. It's pork, it's veal, it's lamb. The current guidelines we recommend are 12 to 18 ounces of cooked red meat per week. That's the max. So you think about that, 12 ounces, you can get a couple of steaks in per week, or maybe, pork once a week and steak once a week if you choose. So the research shows over 100 grams a day of red meat of any kind, that's about 3.5 ounces, is probably safe. Anything above that, if you were to eat it daily, does increase your risk for certain cancers, and colorectal is one that has been studied most when it comes to red meat. It's the heme iron that's in red meat that affects the DNA repair in our cells. And it increases inflammation and also disrupts the microbiome in our gut. We can talk about the microbiome at a different time. It's a huge area of nutrition and research right now. And also, it also has to do with how you cook the meat, right? So you want to avoid cooking over an open flame. It, again, creates carcinogenic properties. For example, charring, grilling at very high temperature. Especially if you get those black areas, or the grilling lines that so many people like, or really the black and charred pieces. Try to cut at least those off. So these guidelines are obviously recommendations to follow for your best health. It's likely not a significant harm if you occasionally choose to throw a steak on the grill on a special occasion. It's what you eat the majority of the time. That is what is important, the majority of the time. So, enjoy what you like. If you love a filet mignon, then have it once in a while, but just don't have it every day. Try majority of the time to eat what we discussed. So let's see, next one here. So now another little bummer for some people. Let's talk about alcohol. The recent guidelines have changed. It used to be for women, one serving of alcohol, I should say, per day, and 2 for men were considered okay. The newer research, the new recommendations from American Cancer Society, American Institute for Cancer Research, and all the other big ones, is actually for cancer prevention, it is best not to consume any alcohol. And I know that's not, we all love our glass of wine once in a while, even the dietitian. But alcohol does metabolize into a carcinogenic chemical. And that is why it can be harmful, especially if you drink often, or if you have a high intake of alcohol. Try to at least to reduce it. But then here is again where all of us have to do our own risk assessment for our own self. If you have a high risk for cancer of any kind, liver is the big one, of course, even any esophageal or GI cancer, it might not be the best thing for you to drink alcohol. But again, that's something that everyone has to make their own decision, make a risk assessment for yourself, what will work for you. All right, so let's just tackle the other big one now while we're at it, and then we'll get to a little bit more positive talk. But let's talk about sugar. Big one with sugar. You all heard sugar feeds cancer, and you can never have sugar in your life if you have cancer, and that is not true. That's not true. It doesn't directly feed the cancer. It doesn't. You don't have a chocolate chip cookie and all of a sudden the cancer cells are exploding beyond control. There is, however, a lot of research right now about glucose control, avoiding what we call insulin resistance, related to cancer and how cancer forms and cancer recurrence. It's very important. If you do have high glucose when they do your labs, really try to reduce it by, that is one time you really should look into limiting sugar. And if you do have a little bit of sugar here and there, it's okay, but it shouldn't be in excess. So an excess sugar, it deposits into our fat cells, right? So especially around our stomach area, we all hate that part. And it's the visceral fat, which is surrounding our organs. That's the dangerous. This is a very metabolically active fat, and it drives estrogen production. And especially if you have a history of breast cancer or any estrogen-driven cancer, reducing your visceral fat or your fat around your stomach is important. And we have, of course, soda, sugary coffee drinks. It's just, it's empty calories, right? There's no nutritional value in it. Try to drink water most of the time. Maybe some sparkling water if you like the bubbles. Maybe a little splash of juice for some taste if you really don't like water. There's many ways you can make delicious drinks that doesn't have a lot of sugar in them. So, okay, what do the guidelines say about sugar? It shouldn't exceed 10% of your daily total intake of calories. So if you think of like a large muscular, man, let's say it's got a 2,000 calorie a day recommendation, which is quite high. But that will be 10% of that will be 200 calories a day. That will be the max recommendation from sugar, right? So that's about 12 teaspoons of sugar, actually, about 200 calories. So to put this in context, a 12-ounce soda, regular soda, has 39 grams of sugar. That's about 10 teaspoons. That's pretty much your total recommendation for added sugar in one day. And then you get sugar from other sources, right? You have natural sugar in fruits and dairy and other things. So, try not to waste your total recommendation for sugar intake on one soda a day, All right, so let's talk about weight. So we can reduce our risk for cancer recurrence by achieving and maintaining a healthy weight. Oh, that's not weight. That's again more about alcohol. Hold on. Here is the weight. So as we discussed before, the weight we carry around our abdominal area is the metabolically active fat. That's important to try to reduce. So just to put that in context a little bit, so there's strong research that show that if you were even to lose 5 or 10% of your weight, if you happen to be overweight, it has huge metabolic implications and improvement in your health, even 5%. So small changes can really make a big, big impact. It doesn't have to be this overall, I have to lose 70 pounds type of thing, 5% of your body weight. Make attainable goals that you possibly could do, if that's what you need to do. So a healthy diet, lots of vegetables, good sources of protein, limiting, empty carbohydrates and sugar. It's really been proven to be the best way to go overall. There is really no quick fix when it comes to it. It's a well-balanced diet most of the time, and some portion control, of course, too. Let's see. Okay. So weight can also be maintained with physical movement and exercise. Movement is good for you. You release endorphins, you feel good. There are also studies that show that regular exercise helps to clear out abnormal cells that are starting to morph. So precancerous cells, very helpful with the exercise. So start moving. The best exercise is the one you will actually do. That's a big one. The one you will actually do. Find something you love. Biking, swimming, you know, put on your favorite music in your living room and start dancing, whatever will make you move. If you have a very sedentary lifestyle, or you work in an office, you sit for many hours of the day, it's actually more important that you take little breaks here. They just get up and start walking around, get those steps in during the day. That's more important than you hitting the gym a couple of times a week. That overall, what you do on a daily basis, just start moving. Go for a walk after dinner. You know, that will be the cardio portion of but there's also strength training is very important. As we age, our muscles even from mid-30s, they're showing mid-30s even, which is young, start to atrophy. The muscle mass start to atrophy. You start to lose every year. You're losing muscle mass. You need to keep these muscles strong. This is what keeps your bone health. This is what keeps you less risk for fractures as you get older. The muscles have to have, the bones and the muscles go together. You know, strong muscles equals strong bones most of the time. Well, you know, with calcium and vitamin D too, but that is very, very important. Also, muscles store glucose, burn very large amount of glucose that doesn't store so quickly into fat then, because it's burned through the muscles. And that's one reason why people that do have a good muscle mass, they burn more calories even when they're resting phase. These muscles, they gulp up way more glucose and calories even when they're not doing anything. So I have patients, a lot of cancer patients that really don't want to go to a gym. Maybe they're feel intimidated. Maybe they don't like the gym. A lot of people don't like the gym. Or maybe they're in a season of their treatment where they're a little compromised with their immune system. They don't want to be in a gym environment. You don't have to go to a gym. You really don't have to go to a gym. Get yourself a couple of free weights, 2 pounds, 5 pounds, whatever you're comfortable with. Place them by the couch, somewhere you can see them without tripping on them, preferably. And then when you watch TV at night, your favorite show comes on, there's a commercial break, you know, pick them up, do some reps, 10 times like this, maybe 10 times, whatever works, you know, do that 3 times a week. And at the end of that week, you do that 3 times a week, you're done with the strength training. It's easy. You're sitting there anyways, watching TV. So just start using those muscles. All right. So that's it for the physical activity parts. So here's another we were talking about. Like you said, it's not just for weight, right? It reduces anxiety, depression. During treatment, I have a lot of patients that become very depressed, and they say, I have that chemo fatigue. I can't move. I can't make myself go out and exercises, and it becomes a snowball effect. If you don't exercise, you become even more tired. So even a light walk, depending on where you're at in your treatment, even a light walk, do a little light weights or whatever works for you. Some resistant bands can be helpful. If you have some issues with your back or your legs, you know, we have chair yoga. I mean, there's so many options right now. You know, there are a lot of ladies that love the Zumba classes, whatever can make you move, right? Reduces lymphedema, improves sleeps, all kinds. There's, you know, lots of great things. All right, so one of my favorite topics, phytonutrients. I can talk about a whole hour about this topic alone, but I'm not going to bore you to death with a ton of it. But it could be a potential good topic for a future talk if you like this more like the you know, itty bitty nutrient aspect of food. So so in short, phytonutrients, they are the colorful fruits and vegetables. The color, the vibrant color. Here's some examples of phytonutrients that you can find in your diet and where to find them. So it's the colors, right? It's the it's compounds that's in vibrant color fruits and vegetables. They are shown to reduce free radical damage to your DNA that can lead to cancer. They help control cell growth, which is very important when it comes to cancer, obviously. They stimulate cell destruction of abnormal cells, so they can make cancer cells go into what we call adaptosis. It's basically they self-destruct, and it's because of some of these protective compounds that you can find in certain produce. So, load up on different, very colorful, vibrant color fruits and vegetables. And, not even white. I mean, it's not a vibrant color, but, garlic and cauliflower and all kind, also reduce inflammation, which can lead to many chronic illnesses. The inflammation is a big one too. So, and challenge yourself. And when you do your weekly grocery shopping, buy a vegetable that you maybe never tried before, like I said before, get something that you haven't tried before in the past. All right, just getting into a couple of I'm going to touch on a couple of things that are very important. Vitamin D is a big one. So there's a lot of research behind this one. We need to have optimal levels of vitamin D. I always encourage my patients to make sure their primary care physician draw their vitamin D levels on their yearly blood draw, or their oncologist can also do it. You'll be surprised to see how many patients has never had a vitamin D panel. They don't have no idea if they're deficient or not. Over 50% of Americans have insufficient or even deficient levels of vitamin D, over half. And there is a correlation. There is a correlation with low vitamin D levels with increased cancer risk just from vitamin D levels. And it's so simple. It's a vitamin D supplement, if that's where you have to go. It's about maybe a couple of pennies per supplement. It's a very cheap supplement and very effective. We get most of our vitamin D from the sun, but as we get older, the receptors that we need in our skin, they start to become sluggish, and we're just not absorbing the vitamin D, and then we cannot convert it into the active form of vitamin D, and it's a whole thing. And then we have food sources from fish and mushrooms and fortified dairy, which are great, but it's often not enough. And you'll be surprised how many are. We also don't go out in the sun as much, right? Because we are concerned over skin cancer, which absolutely you need to be. So we put a lot of sunscreen, and we put protective clothing. So even if we were to absorb the vitamin D from the sun, we block it, the sunscreen and things like that. So, but you often need to supplement with vitamin D3. But you should get your labs done so you can see what is your levels now. Work with your physician, and they'll tell you how much you need to supplement if you do. But many of us have to supplement with vitamin D, and it is related to cancer. It's a large process. We can talk about that another time. So anyway, another fun one that I happen to like very much, especially related to breast cancer. It's a practical tip just to reduce breast cancer recurrence or breast cancer in general. Lignans that we can see specifically in, for example, flaxseed is a good source of lignans. It's also a phytonutrient, and there's studies behind lignan consumption, like a tablespoon or even 2 tablespoons a day. You can put them in a smoothie, you can in muffin batter or pancakes or anything like that. You need to buy them whole, because if you buy them ground, most of the natural oils have evaporated. Store them in the fridge because they do become rancid if they're out. And then you need to crush the shell somehow in order to absorb it. So you can have a little spice grinder to crush the flax seeds, or even throw them a handful in a smoothie, in your morning smoothie, if you make one with some berries or whatever. And can be very helpful. That's a little tip just to that you can incorporate into your day. All right, so let's talk about some practical tips. How can you incorporate some of these recommendations that we spoke about tonight into your daily life? So I love American Institute for Cancer Research's website, AICR.com. They have it's called the Healthy 10 Challenge. It's a 10-week completely free challenge, and has to do with, it's a great way to kickstart healthy lifestyle and nutrition practices, right? So I recommend this program to every one of my patients that's going into a survivorship phase of their treatment. And it's a very easy, attainable, simple goals. You get an email every week with a goal of the week. And it can be anything from increasing, water consumption, can be finding other ways to move during the week, or different foods to eat and why to eat it, and you get this. They don't bog you down with a bunch of emails. You get one a week, and there's a lot of tips there, to related to nutrition and exercise, and it's a great website. I would encourage you guys to look into it. Besides that 10 weeks challenge, they talk about a lot of things related to cancer research and nutrition and lifestyle, and it's a very nice website. Another thing would be to take advantage of free apps that's out there. One would be maybe the free version of MyFitnessPal, and you can start logging your meals. They have a little button on there, just a log meal, and you just basically write in what you had, for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, drinks, whatever. And at the end of the day, you could see, where are you lacking? Did you get enough iron? Did you get enough calcium, enough, vitamin C, whatever? Did you have too much carbohydrates? Did you have too little protein, too much sugar, whatever it is? But you can get like do it for a couple of weeks at least, just so you kind of get it. You'd be surprised at what you find out, that maybe you thought you were doing things one way, and maybe you thought you were consuming a ton of protein for your muscle mass, and you're working out or whatever it is, and you're really very lacking. I mean, it could be a good thing to do once in a while, just to get an overall, not everybody has access to a dietitian that can sit down with them. It's also a great way to have a little accountability. For example, if you try to lose some weight, accountability for yourself. Because if you've been logging your meals every day, and you've had a great day, and then you want to have that bowl of ice cream or piece of cake or whatever it happened to be at night, you may think twice before you will do it. So it's a way to be accountable for yourself.